we're gonna do Meet Your Actor series, and we're highlighting Angela Cortez.
Hello.
So, hello.
Hello.
And I was just gonna share like when I first met you.
Mm.
I was like, who is this like spitfire, bubbly, like super fun, like, always had something fun to say and, like the appropriate comment that wasn't awkward and was actually fun and funny or
I mean, you got to
I
know me.
mean,
Yeah.
and then we ended up, doing our accountability group and it turned into meeting you in Vegas in person and, and like a friendship and watching you go through your journey into voiceover and it's just like been like really cool, because I was just like,
Yeah, thank you.
I still remember you saying, I'm not dipping my toes in this pool. Like I am going feet first into
Uh,
this like
yeah. It's a
opportunity.
voiceover, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I still had that mentality. I really do.
But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I just think it's
go ahead.
interesting. No, I just think it's interesting to hear about how people found their way into the creative realm.
Hmm.
We've talked about this before, like, and you've said it, their origin story, So I want to like highlight each of us and today's your day. So I want to
Yeah,
like know more about like how you got started and,
sure.
like your, yeah.
Sure. Well, my background is in radio. I spent about 15 years in radio, just about. And then while I was still in radio, when COVID hit, I was at this point in time in my career, I had moved away from home and I was in a different city by myself with just me and my son. So I think that was kind of wearing on me too. So it's kind of like, I think I'm falling out of love with radio and I need to find a different outlet, like just to find something else to do. Right. So I think when COVID started coming around, I think that was actually a year before COVID. That's when I kind of decided that I wanted to jump into the voiceover stuff. And like I said, I would spent 15 years in radio. So I had a little bit of experience doing production stuff and voicing commercials and doing stuff like that. And I've always enjoyed it. And with certain people I worked with, they always told me like, "Oh yeah, you'd be great doing this. You should try it. I know a coach or I know somebody you can talk to about this." And never really took it serious.
Yeah.
So right before COVID hit, I think that's when I was like, okay, I'm away from home. After I leave this radio situation, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue with radio? Am I going to try something new? Am I going to, go a completely different direction?
Yeah.
So I decided that, maybe I will try the voiceover stuff, even if anything comes out of it, maybe it's just a hobby. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just extra play money for vacations or whatever. So I decided to take well, at first it was with one of my good friends from radio. She knew a guy who was taking classes and
Oh.
she got into his class and so she invited me and I was just like, "Okay, cool." So I just took it for fun and then I was like, "I like this, but I didn't like the coach."
Oh.
So that's when I kind of started speaking to a couple people that I was working with in Las Vegas. That the first class I took was from a guy in Denver. So it was virtual from a guy in Denver, and then I started speaking to the radio people I worked with in Las Vegas, and one of the guys, he was taking, courses at the
Voice
academy
actor studio.
voiceover academy, the voiceover studio that we worked at or that we went to, and he, gave me the information, and I checked it out, and, of course, I dragged my feet a little bit, but then I finally jumped in and took
At
a couple
first.
of the intro courses, and before you knew it, I was, in it for the win, like, you take that intro course and you're still kind of not sure if it's for you or not. But then
Yes.
you're like, okay, I'm going to take another class just to see if, I really like it. And, after I think maybe my second ongoing class or like, so they give you the intro classes and then you have to take your 4 week classes and stuff like that. I think after my second one, I was like, yeah, I could see myself doing this. I could
Yeah.
be a professional voiceover artist. That's cool. I
Right.
could work with that. So yeah, I took all the courses and like Ja said, I jumped in.
You totally jumped
I
in.
just jumped in and tried to get it going. And I had some success and then, I had some fails. And
Yeah.
I think I've gone through all those kind of emotions as well as any creative has seen in their careers. You have your successes, you have your fails, you have your I had no idea that can even happen kind of
Right.
moments and, you know, I still enjoy it and I still do consider myself a voice actor, but it definitely has become more of a hobby versus a career path for me.
Right.
And I don't say that it won't become a career path for me. It could later down the line
Yeah.
become something bigger for me, but it definitely wasn't paying the bills like I wanted it to.
Right.
So I had to find a different job.
Right.
And that job, it's cool. I mean, like I said, I left Las Vegas and I came back home and again, still wasn't sure I wanted to go back into radio. Um, I was doing voiceover pretty consistently and I was making some progress, but then it just kind of fell off and I just wasn't in the right mindset to be like, okay, I'm just gonna struggle through it. I'm gonna power through it. I was like, no, I need to get a second job. So then I picked up just something simple. It was like I was tutoring kids in reading,
Yeah.
which was really
Remember.
fun,
Yeah.
and kind of got to practice voices, which was kind of fun because kids love voices when you're reading. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but
Reading out loud too.
yeah, and reading out loud is phenomenal for voice acting.
Yep.
So yeah, that was definitely helpful. But then later on, I connected with one of my old radio buddies from Colorado, and he had been doing weddings and events, DJing for I think he's going on like 30 some odd years, but he had asked if
Oh,
I was interested in making some extra money doing AV stuff because I know how to plug in speakers and whatnot.
right.
So he
Yeah.
asked me if I would be interested in doing that. And I said, sure, I'll make some extra cash here and there. And I ended up working with them. And then he asked me if I was willing to learn how to DJ and do weddings. And I said, I'll
Wow.
give it a go. And now I'm already a year in doing weddings and events and corporate stuff. And um, it's fun. It's a good mixture of like the radio stuff because I get to play with the music
Yeah.
programming and stuff that I used to love, and then also the voiceover stuff because I get to announce, the bride and groom and their grand entrance. They get to announce like their first dances, giving them their grand exits and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
have the announcing
Live
portion,
announce. Yeah.
yeah, the live announce portion, um, combined with like the musical side of it too. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a cool little mesh of my two little careers that I started.
Do you think that like the life change from moving from Vegas back home to Colorado, because you had to like refocus, right, on
Mm.
family. So you still
Yeah.
have like you and your son to take care of. And then you also had to like expand and, you had to take care of family,
Mhm.
and you guys had to
Mhm.
pull together. So I think that, do you think that life change maybe sort of like
Tip
changed it
scale.
or change the trajectory a little bit? I mean, sometimes we have to do that
Um,
though in life. You have to like refocus,
yeah,
recalibrate,
totally.
reprioritize things. And it doesn't mean that you're like stepping away from voice acting. It
Right.
just means that like you had to recalibrate.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with you because, when I first started voiceover stuff, I was in my own apartment in Las Vegas, and a lot of times when I was auditioning and doing all that voiceover stuff, it was on the weekends when my son was with his father, so it was a
Yeah.
very quiet household, didn't have to worry about, waking people up in the middle of their naps or whatever it
Right.
was.
Just you and the
Um
cat.
yeah, just me and the cat, and then when I came home, like you said, I had to take care of family, and, my mom is in a wheelchair, so where I am set up in my studio is in our basement, so the wheelchair is rolling back and forth, I could hear that, and
Yeah.
you could hear the streets, and, because my old apartment in Las Vegas was on a country club, golf course, and, okay, first and
Quiet.
foremost, I'm not bougie, not rich at all, but I just happened to get a good deal at this little apartment. So it was very quiet, but then I came home and it's like
Yeah.
bustling city life.
Yeah.
So definitely hear a lot of noises. So I think that kind of slowed me down in the whole voiceover world just because I was just like, it is just so hard to do this
Yeah.
during regular working hours, like, quote
Yeah.
unquote 9 to 5 situation. So I had to adjust my schedule and start doing voiceover stuff at night when everybody's sleeping and it's not as busy on the streets and you can't hear all the
Yeah.
crazy cars and all that stuff. So I think that was a good shift for me for a while. Um, but like I said, I just wasn't getting uh
Traction, maybe.
attraction. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess, when we go into voiceover, you hear all of these amazing success stories about, this woman started and she got all of these great gigs and she like quit her job within 3 months. I thought that was gonna be me. I was gung ho on that baby. It wasn't.
Feet first into
Yeah,
the
it
pool.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't say that it wouldn't have been me if I kept continuing to do that, but at some point, you have to really look at reality and be like, "You know what? Like, you need to pay your bills, and
Yes.
your dreams are not gonna pay them right now, so,
Right.
keep on chugging along and keep on doing it." Because I still audition, I just don't audition as much as I used to.
Right.
I still have gigs, I just don't have as many as I used to. I still have
Right.
clients, and
Yeah,
those clients are very, loyal to me. I'm super thankful for that. All the clients that I do work with, they always come back to me, or they
that's
have, and
awesome.
knock on wood.
Yeah,
Um, I'll update whatever they need me to do, and, I've gotten other gigs off of these other clients too, so, I mean, I'm super thankful
that's
for that,
awesome.
but
Yeah.
as far as, like, um, landing newer gigs and landing multiple, gigs,
Yeah,
it's very
regularly.
few in between for me at this point,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that, like I said, maybe later in life when, things are a little bit slower for me and I have, more security
Yeah.
in, my life, maybe I will
Financially, yeah.
focus more on being, the voice actor of my dreams.
Yeah, but I think that, like, just going for it though and giving yourself the
Yeah,
space and the, and permission to just be like, okay, I need to do something different. I don't know where this is going to take me, but I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm going to get the
absolutely.
training and I'm going
Uh-huh,
to do it right. And you had some really good success stories, like I
totally.
mean, we were in the intro class together, right?
Uh-huh,
Were we in the
uh-huh.
intro class together or was it the
Mhm.
4 week?
No, but I believe we were in both together, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, and, and, like, you definitely had a much quicker launch, like,
Yeah,
it happened quicker for
mhm,
you, and you had some really big successes, like, I remember
pretty
watching
quickly.
HGTV, and here's my friend Angela's voice on the
Yeah.
TV for a Quaker commercial, and so, but again, like you said, there's like ups and downs
Mhm.
and it's hard to navigate that without having outside income coming in, especially when, you're a single mom, you have a dog, you have a son,
Uh-huh,
and then like pivoting and recalibrating and going home and helping family, like,
right. Yeah. Different
yeah,
story compared to when I started, like, thinking,
yeah, life
I'd be able
changes.
to yeah, life changes and you kinda have to move with it,
Yeah,
and
gotta roll with
again,
it.
I'm not saying that I'm giving up on voiceover whatsoever, like, I
Mm-mm.
still enjoy how it makes me feel, like, again, following that joy in your heart, like, when I'm auditioning or when I do land a gig, like, I just remember that feeling I get, like, "Oh, yeah."
It's awesome.
Like, you're energized again, and you're like, "Okay, I could do it. I could totally,
Yeah,
be the next best voiceover artist," but,
bring me
um
more. Yeah.
yeah, bring me more, exactly. But, like, being flexible in general for me has always been a thing, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing,
I
now that I
think
think
being
about it.
flexible is good.
I like to be flexible, but in the same sense, like, you know, being I don't wanna say rigid, rigid's not the word, but, like, being very persistent. We spoke about this earlier, being persistent in what you do is a huge key in success, especially in voiceover, and that's something that I struggled with very early on, is being
Yeah.
persistent. Even though I did get success in the beginning,
Yeah.
I just wasn't as persistent as coaches told me to be. Coaches
Right.
were like, "You need to audition this many times, you need to practice every single day,
Right.
you need to read out loud every single day." They give you these I don't wanna say rules to success, but I mean, basically they are,
Tips.
they're
Tips and
tips to
tries.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I took some of it seriously, but I didn't take all of it seriously. And had I taken it all seriously, I may be in a different place. But in
Yeah.
the same sense, like I do believe, we go through life the way it's meant to be. And
Mhm.
if, I wasn't meant to be the best voiceover artist in the world, maybe I was meant to be, oh, awesome wedding DJ.
Yes.
And here we are, so I can't say that I'm, like, I love the wedding DJ stuff, but I don't wanna be a wedding DJ my whole life.
I think it's pretty cool though. I
It
mean,
is
you have
cool.
improv, you have live announce. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on your toes, you're on your feet. It's
Mhm.
it's it's, almost like voiceover adjacent, you know what I'm saying?
Kind
Because
of,
it's
yeah.
like it is like live announce. Like you said,
Yeah.
you're introducing people's on their like the biggest day of their life, their
Yeah.
names and their family and their wedding party and their first dances and I
All
mean,
that.
it's like
Mhm.
really important, stuff. And I feel like I read something where they were saying that like what's meant for you is there for you at the time that you need it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Kind of
love that.
like,
Yeah,
and it's like
absolutely.
and like what you're given what you need in the moment, and things
Right.
are meant to happen in the moment that they're
Absolutely.
supposed to be. So
And I agree with that because, I think about what I am doing right now. And like I said, I don't want to be a wedding DJ all my life. In the same sense, I do think it's amazing that I'm learning these kind of skills that not only are adjacent to, my radio stuff and my voiceover stuff,
yeah,
but I'm also learning other skills that may help me in the future. If I do decide to go back in radio, now they have a DJ who can actually, mix music on air because I learned how to DJ while I was a wedding DJ.
right,
You know,
right,
now I know how, not to say I didn't know how prior to voiceover, but like now I know how to MC gigs in a different way than I would have prior to learning voiceover. Like when I was in
yeah.
radio,
I know, I was laughing, I
hated
remember,
live
like,
events and having to be on stage and,
oh my god, the
announcing bands and
stories.
stuff. I hated that stuff so much. But now that I've had practice doing voiceover announcement and, even the wedding stuff, learning how to announce certain things in that kind of field, it's something that can build it's building my resume.
Character, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
builds character, but it builds my resume, like, nobody else
confidence.
well, there may be somebody else out there like me, but in the same sense, like, my resume is a pretty damn good resume, and I just keep building with it with
Yeah,
the things that are coming my way, and,
yeah.
like we had talked about earlier, me jumping in head first to things, I guess it's a commonality in some of these things, like, I didn't know how to DJ, and now I do, I jumped head
Right,
first into it and learned how to figure it out.
yeah.
So,
You have a
so
new skill, right? Like, you have a
Mhm.
new skill set. So it's
Yeah,
like, you start down one path and then you never know where it's gonna take you, and here it's,
right.
like, you've taken a little bit of a detour and, like, gone in a different trajectory, but, like, it's
Mhm.
still, like, within, like, the path that's, like,
Right.
parallel to the path that you started on,
Mhm.
and that's the beauty of it all because it could take you back right back to,
Yeah.
full-time voice acting or whatever, but I really
Mhm.
feel like everybody's got a different path and different way of doing things, and I think it's interesting, though, that, like, you know, I remember you telling stories about, I
Uh-oh.
hated doing live announce. I hated doing
Yeah.
concerts. Like, I was the one slamming a beer and I let whoever else wanted to talk, like whoever had the biggest ego wanted to get on with the
Go for it.
microphone, go for it.
I'm
Like,
just gonna wave.
I'll just wave and smile and shake hands
Yeah,
and kiss babies, like whatever. And
totally.
and I remember you telling like even, within the last year or a couple of years where you were doing where you when you were still in radio, it's only been
Mhm.
like a few years that you're not like full-time
Yeah,
radio on the air.
agreed. Uh-huh.
And you telling us like how you you were on stage or you were doing like some sort of like race
Mhm.
and you like just fucked it all up and you were just like
Horribly. That was,
like
like, honestly one of my last gigs in radio too, like, it was one of my last things, and it was I think
what
it
were
was like a heart walk or maybe like a
yeah,
5K something, and I was on stage, and I
I'm
lost
laughing with
track in
you.
the script, and I felt like I was going through one of those moments where, like, the letters, like, were, like, floating around me, and I couldn't make out a word to save my life, and, thankfully, my partner that was on stage with me, he covered for me and was able
Yeah.
to, like, get back on track quickly, but I know he's seen the fear in my face when I when I couldn't figure out what I
I
was supposed
saw
to
the fear
do.
in your face when you were telling the story
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the
after
kind
the
of stuff
fact.
that, you try your best to prepare for. Like, I ask for scripts weeks in advance and,
Right.
let me get the script so I can, make sure I understand what we're talking about and all this other stuff. And even as much as you prepare for it, like when you get on stage and you start seeing eyes look at you, that's why I think
Right.
I'm so good in radio and in voiceover because I don't have to have eyes on me. Like I can just
Right.
be me and it's me in the microphone, it's me and my random ass characters.
Right.
It's a good position for me, but when I start seeing people and their little beady eyes look at me
You're like you just like it's like almost like you're like stuck in quicksand
Yeah.
or something. Like you
Mhm.
just kind of
Time
like
slows down. It's
yes.
crazy.
It's like the Charlie Brown wah 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 wah.
Absolutely, and if I'm the one who's womping, like, that's what it is. It's crazy. So, yeah, it's definitely been,
But now
an
look at
experience.
you. Like you're
Yeah,
announcing people's like biggest day of their lives. You're
and
on
it
mic.
still makes me hella nervous. It really
No,
does.
but I can see the confidence and you light up a little bit. You light up about it, and I can tell that like you feel more comfortable and
Yeah,
grounded and confident.
absolutely.
And if, like as opposed to like a couple years ago when you shared that story with us,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just,
And,
we
you
can
know what?
laugh about it.
The horrible thing about it is when I shared that story, I was already 15 years into radio and I'm still having issues where I'm like,
Yeah, but that's
like where
different.
things happen. But at this point in time, I think that was prior to my voiceover. beginnings
Yeah.
and learning what I learned in voiceover. I think that helped me in what I'm doing now. Like you said, like, I'm announcing all these people's big days and super important moments in their
Yeah.
day. And it's I think having that voiceover training and, you know, it's like that Jedi mind trick. They teach you
Yes.
mind tricks that, even if you do have the script in front of you, try your best to enunciate this instead of that, so it
Yeah.
makes it sound better.
Yeah.
And, just having those little training pieces come into play when I'm doing stuff like that is just it's crazy you don't see it when it's happening, but when you start thinking about it, you're like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
this is a total perfect match," like I
Yeah.
did this so that I could be here and I'm doing this so I could be there, so
And you never know where it's gonna take you next, right?
Mhm.
Like I said,
Right.
like, you might have taken a little bit off went off on a different path, but it's
Mhm.
parallel to what you were doing from radio to voice acting and now doing, these live events, right,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
weddings and what
Corporate events and stuff
corporate
like
events
that.
and graduating and stuff like that, and, like, you never know where it's gonna take you, and I think we've all kind of experienced that in our own little
Yeah,
ways on our journeys, and
absolutely.
so and you never know where it's gonna take you next, I
Yeah,
mean,
and
and it's
one of the
interesting.
things I remember you telling us when we first started even this podcast is following breadcrumbs, and I
Yeah,
feel like this is what it is for me. I'm just they may not seem like they work well together, but when I really sit down and think about it, they do. Like, I'm
yeah,
picking up a breadcrumb from, radio doing this, and I'm picking up a breadcrumb from voiceover doing this over here, so
yeah,
following those breadcrumbs and, yeah, maybe one day I'll decide to just quit all of it and become like a nurse or something, who knows? But
but
for
that might
right
be your
now
calling, you know?
yeah, it could be, but, like, for now, like, whatever's these opportunities that keep finding their self or finding their way to me,
Yeah.
I'll just keep taking them until I figure out something else.
But I think
Who
it's
knows if I will or not.
amazing. I think it's amazing because it's a true testament to knowing who you are and
Mhm.
also being open to other possibilities coming in
Yeah,
while you still follow your passion.
totally.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because like, there is a reality check here, right? Like,
Mhm.
you are a single mom, you have a child to take care of, you have family to take care of, like,
Right.
I'm a mom, I have kids that have to eat and need to be clothed and have orthodontic work, it's like you have responsibilities. Like, we all
Mhm.
have responsibilities but like the difference, is that you're following your passion still and then you're like you said, you're being flexible.
Yeah,
And you're open to these opportunities coming to you and these opportunities can, like you said, build into
right.
voice acting. Who knows, like, who knows? I take your voice acting cards with you to these events. You never
Right.
know who you're gonna
Mhm.
meet and be like, "Hey, this is what I do, but I'm also this," and
Right. Mhm.
networking and the opportunities that are being created
Yeah.
outside of the booth are amazing. That's why I took the resort job, because
Uh-huh.
it's just like you never know.
You never know. You
You
absolutely never
never
know
know
who's
what's
gonna
gonna
be there.
happen.
And like you said, it opens up different opportunities and as I mentioned earlier, I don't wanna be a wedding DJ all my life. I have other aspirations in life and voiceover is definitely one of them, but, there's other dreams that I want, like, thinking about opening up a business, like,
That's
people
cool.
that I'm working with now have amazing business qualities that I can learn from, and they can teach me how to do what I wanna do
Yeah.
eventually in life, and for now, this is what I'm doing, and I'm glad I'm in the hands of people I trust because,
Yes.
you can get into fields and you don't these people are not for you, they're for
Right.
themselves, and the guys that I'm working with, I've known them for years, and
From
they've been
radio.
yeah, I've known these guys from radio, but they've also been doing this corporate events DJing for 30 some odd years,
Yeah.
combined, if it's combined, I'm sure it's more, but, they know the ins and outs of the business, and they know me, and they know how I work as far as,
Yeah.
like, I'm a very dedicated worker, so they lean on me for things, and I lean on them for stuff, so, being in the right spaces with the right people, during the right times, I
Yeah.
think it's huge,
Yeah.
and to recognize that is even bigger.
Yeah.
To because some
Yeah.
people can be in those spaces and be with those right people, but they won't recognize that as an opportunity,
Yes. Yes.
like,
Yeah.
you may see, like, "Oh, yeah, this is my homeboy, he runs his own real estate business," and in the back of your head, you wanna get into real estate, but you never think about asking your homeboy for help? That's
Right.
why it's good to have those people who are in the business or, like you said, a couple, in our a couple episodes that, being with people who are on the same level as you,
Going through what you're going
going
through in the
through
creative
yeah.
process, different journeys, but you have like the same passion for it. And look at all of us. Look at you, look
Mhm.
at Gabby. You and I and Gabby all started in like the intro and the 4 week, at the
Mhm.
place that we studied. And it's like we're all doing different things, but we are all going in the same direction with the same
Yeah.
passion. It's just, the ebbs and flows of our different journeys, which I find
Mhm.
always interesting. And this also allows you to be flexible with being at home with your
Yeah.
nephew, helping
Mhm.
your sister. You have your older son who's in high school, the
Right.
formative years that they need guidance, and
Mhm.
also being there for family with your mom,
Absolutely. Mhm.
and so but you're still able to do the things that you need to do that you're excited
Mhm.
about too,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important. It's such a
Totally.
balance. It's such a balance.
Yeah.
So you worked for like one of the largest radio networks.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
miss it? Do you like regret leaving? I mean, would you go
My
back?
my first answer is no. I don't regret anything. I like to say that I left radio before it left me. So that's always
Yes.
a good thing because in radio, it's one of those
Fickle.
things like you just never know. You can be the best employee ever, and the next day, layoffs, we don't have enough money for you.
Yeah.
Like
Flip
boom, you're
formats.
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We flip format, exactly, and you're out. So you just never know. So I am very proud to say that I left radio before it left me.
I
So
broke
that's
up
one
with
thing.
radio.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing. I do miss some aspects of it. Um, I miss, you know, talking about stuff on air and, just
Yeah,
getting people's reactions to things but I don't miss the corporate side of it,
I
and
know.
especially with the corporation that I was with, they were very, very much into, corporate rules and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and
And
it just took the
culture.
fun yeah, the culture, it just took the fun out of radio because when I started, it was a completely different culture,
Yeah.
like, people were, getting drunk and using the company van to haul, breakfast burritos for
Right.
hangovers the next day. So,
Right, right.
it was a different time, a different, breed of radio people for one.
Yes.
And then as I grew into radio and, my 15 years progressed, it turned into more of a corporate thing and you couldn't do anything without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
You couldn't say anything without getting in trouble. You couldn't it just wasn't fun anymore,
Yeah.
and then if we get deeper into the situation, I had been working for so long and had dreams in radio to become certain things, and I didn't feel like I was getting those opportunities, and I think
Right.
that's what really killed my love for radio too, is because I just felt like I was just being looked over, and
Mhm.
as hard as I worked, I just knew, like, the very next day I could be, tossed out on my butt.
Mhm.
Easy as that, and they would still continue with life. They would already have a plan in place if, they had to fire me, they would already have a
Yeah.
plan in place,
You
so
were
I think
replaceable.
yeah, super replaceable, and,
Mhm.
I don't wanna get morbid on it, but, like, even after coming home and, just kind of I don't wanna say integrating myself back into those radio, circles, but, you come home and people are like, "Oh, you're still in radio?" And you say, "No," and then like, "Oh," you just kinda meet back up with all those people you used to work with. Well, unfortunately, one of the guys that I worked with way before, I left for Las Vegas, he came back and he was in radio and he was doing great, and then he got fired, and then he, um sadly enough, he passed away, and the
Mhm.
very next day, they were on with somebody else and had somebody in his place, and they were doing his contest, and they were it
Life
just
keeps
kept
going.
moving,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like somebody passed away, we can't just stop down the music for a second and be like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just super sad, and, like, that kinda stuff, just makes me think I can't work for other people anymore, like, I have to
Mhm.
work for myself, I need to be doing stuff for me and my family,
Yeah.
like, giving 15 years to the companies that I was with, like, I did great work for them, and I'm proud of the work that I did do and all the stuff that I gotta do, with those companies, but in the same sense, it was just I was always on my toes and,
Yeah.
always worried about being fired or saying something wrong
Yeah.
that would get me in trouble, so,
Get
like
canceled. I mean, you
yeah,
never know. I
getting
mean, like with
canceled.
that culture now too. Yeah, it's like
Absolutely, so it
difficult.
just at a certain point, it just kind of I fell out of love with it, and I just knew that it wasn't for me anymore, and I can't
Mhm.
say that I wouldn't wanna go back if the price was right.
Right. I've considered
But
it.
yeah, I would consider it, but in the same sense, like, the mindset I was in when I left radio was not a good one. We'll just
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, I'm
Radio's
glad
tough. It's
it
fickle.
is.
It's
Yeah, it
very true.
is.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I had the experiences I did, and I'm glad I was able to make the transitions into, like, the voiceover world, and then making the transition into, like, the DJ stuff, and even just having the opportunities to do something completely different, like tutoring the children, tutoring
Right.
kids, like,
Reading.
it was a completely different experience, but I enjoyed it, it was cool to, try something different, and find something in myself that, I didn't think I had. I could be a good teacher. I could be a really good teacher if I wanted to be,
With kids,
you
I
know?
could see that. You
Yeah,
have
with
good
kids, I
energy
can
with kids,
totally
yeah.
I would be an art teacher, though, nobody likes reading. But,
So
it gave me the opportunity to see that, I'm not just, a voice in a
yeah.
box, like
Mhm.
I can teach, I can DJ, I can, make brides and grooms feel super happy on their wedding days, I
Yeah,
can do stuff like that. I have hospitality experience now, so,
yeah.
um, yeah,
I
it
love that.
the paths you take, it takes you down different paths, but, um, you
I
just gotta take it for what it is, and
You do. I
yes.
wanna know, like, with radio, like, the story about how you got into radio is
Mhm.
interesting, right? Because that was sort of like, again, another y open to
Following
the
the breadcrumbs.
experience. What?
It was just following the breadcrumbs.
I know, right? I mean,
It
like,
really
going
was.
back, and that wasn't your first job, like, what was your very first job? I feel like it was, like, was it in a tanning?
It was close to. My very first job was at a Chinese food restaurant. So
Okay.
that was in hospitality.
Yeah.
I was front of the house at the Chinese food restaurant down the street,
Did
which I
you
really
work
loved because it was a good high school job. And then after that, I got into a tanning salon. So I worked my way from like, just an associate to like a assistant manager in a tanning salon over a couple years. And, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to college. I was taking architectural courses. I wanted to
okay,
go
yeah.
into architecture. And I don't know, like, long story short, I took a class
Why?
in
Like,
high school that I thought would transfer as a college credit. It didn't, so they were gonna make me take it again, and I didn't want to
oh,
at that point in time. So I decided I was gonna do something fun for that semester, took a radio and television course just for fun, and it took me down a path where they were like, "Okay, well, if you're into it, then we need to get you an internship." I got an internship with at the time, it was Clear Channel.
right.
Um, got an internship with them, and before you know it, I got a part-time gig with them, and
And then
then part-time
15
went to
years later.
full-time, and then I just went into different departments from there, and I so out of my 15 years, I was probably on air for about 12 of those years.
Yeah.
So, the other years I was just doing like promotional stuff or doing,
Yeah.
helping with programming and things like that, but I was never on air. So about 12 years I was on air actually.
Wow. That's
But yeah, I was
crazy.
just following the breadcrumbs, like I didn't think I wanted to be in radio. I actually wanted to run into TV. Like when I was taking the courses, I thought I was going to go into TV
Yeah.
over radio, but my internship took me to a radio station
Yeah.
and I just kept on moving along with it. And yeah.
Isn't it interesting? Because like, I have, like, a similar, like, journey,
Yeah.
like, I mean, this is we're highlighting your journey, but it's, like, similar, like, I can totally identify with what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
it's just interesting how life, like, presents these, like,
Mhm.
opportunities, and if you're not, like you said, aware of them or open to them, and you
Yeah.
miss them, then, like, you miss out on opportunities that could take you
Yeah.
on
And,
change your trajectory.
speaking of that, just being aware and open to them is one thing, but also, I know some people are
Taking a
so,
chance.
um gung ho on like this is my journey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going to be, this is how it's going to happen.
Yeah,
They're so stuck to a plan and they're not flexible enough to see the ebbs and flows of things
yeah,
that, it can become so frustrating that you're not making the goals that you have set for yourself
right.
because you're so rigid in your plan. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that you
or
shouldn't
bitter.
stick to a plan. Yeah, but absolutely. I'm not, yeah, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't stick to a plan. I think having a plan is amazing, especially when it comes to like long-term goals. Like in 5 years, I want to be doing something else.
Yeah,
Have a goal in mind for that. But in the
sure,
same sense, like, like I didn't think I'd be a DJ.
sure.
I always thought just I was just going to do voiceover and be good with it. And now I'm here doing voiceover slash DJ stuff.
Yeah,
And, here we are, just because I was able to take something that was presented to me and give it a go in the sense that if I did like it, I'll keep going with it. If I didn't like it, at least I
yeah.
tried it, you know?
Yeah, and it is, like, similar to voiceover. I mean, it's like a genre of voiceover, like live announce, like, you're
Absolutely.
literally events, like, live
Yeah.
announcing at events, like, that is, like, actually a genre, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's not like you're
Mhm.
not doing voiceover, just like when you were in
Right.
radio, it wasn't like you were voicing commercials, like,
Right.
we were both doing voiceover before we realized that we were actually
You're actually doing
doing
voiceover.
voiceover, and we weren't
Yeah.
getting paid any extra. I was
I
doing
know.
radio
We were doing
imaging
it for free. I can't
for
believe we were doing it
free.
for free. What was wrong with
For
us?
free, I have no idea. We were doing live announce, we were doing, like, radio imaging, we were
All of
doing
it.
all of it
All of it.
for
Even
free.
editing, which I think is something that
Right.
we should be putting on our voiceover resumes is like we can edit
Yeah,
down your voices and throw some music behind it, make your commercial, like we can
right.
actually produce stuff like that. And,
Right.
that's another thing is like, all of this stuff that's stacking up, like there was at one point in my radio career, they were ready to do layoffs and they basically made everybody write down everything they do in a day so that they can kind of evaluate, like, "Okay, who's holding their weight," kinda deal,
Yeah.
and I took that to the heart. I was like, "I will tell you every single little thing down to the minute of the things that I do,"
Wow.
and, just listing out the things that I was doing for the radio station, it put into perspective, like, I do so much more than I think I'm capable
Right.
of. Like, you go to work and you think, "Okay, I'm just gonna go in, clock in, punch in, do my job, come home." But when you really break it down, like, you're holding a business together sometimes,
Yeah.
when you're in a certain position, you can hold a business together just because of the little things that you're doing that you think are so minuscule, but it's huge in
Yeah.
the whole cog of the wheel, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's like a really good point. Yeah, that
Yeah,
like there's a
so
bigger picture to everything.
absolutely. So these
Yeah.
little skills that I'm picking up here and, picking up there in, you know, when you put it all together, like this makes such a
Yeah.
beautiful resume for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And experience, and you're
Yeah.
experiencing life and like you're, open to the experience. So, do you have a growth story from like your days back in like I'm going to go here from your tanning bed days? Like what
Oh,
I mean
gross. Yeah. Ew. The whole thing
I
was
mean
gross.
like everybody wants to know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just yeah, no, you can't go
It
there
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just, it's tanning,
and
obviously, and
naked
when you're
and
sitting in
yeah,
the tanning bed for 15,
sludge.
20 minutes, it's sweaty, it's gross, and,
Yeah.
of course, sometimes you come from, like I don't wanna say you, but, like, some people will come from the gym,
Oh
and,
yeah.
they're already smelly a little bit, and then they get into the tanning bed, and then it's
Oh,
extra smelly, and then I'd have
gross.
to go in there and wipe up all their juices and stuff, it was just not fun.
Yeah.
But,
But
I
it was
mean,
a learning experience.
learning experience, it was a high school/college, type
Yeah.
job, so I wasn't even worried, like, that's not gonna
Yeah.
be again, I had other goals and aspirations thinking I was gonna be an architect at the time, but, it turned into something else.
It's so funny that you were gonna be an architect. I was going
I
in
know.
for accounting, like, and I
Oh
was
my
like and then I
god!
switched over to like, that was not mine. That was not my
Yeah,
dream. That was
I
not my
could not
goal.
I could
Like,
not see
that
you as
was
an accountant.
no. No, absolutely not, and then I
I
went
mean,
into
you'd be a great one, I'm sure, but
oh,
I
no,
it
no, do
doesn't fit
not
your
trust me.
personality.
No, but I have used some of the classes I've taken,
Oh, really?
like, f
Awesome.
well, no, because, it's like we're running a business.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
you take like you were talking about taking pieces and things that like, if you wrote down everything that you do in a day, like, I
Uh-huh.
mean, you can take all these different pieces of experiences,
Yep.
from everything that you've done, from
Mhm.
your college and high school days all the way
Mhm.
through radio into like now.
Yeah.
And you can use it as like applications and apply it to things that you're
Totally.
you're doing. But so what are some things that like people would know that are a part of like who you are? Like I know the answer to like little like things like hobbies or things that you do that someone would be like, "Oh, I would never think that she does that." Like, like when you're at home and you
All
have some
kinds of
free time.
stupid stuff.
I know, right? Like I don't know, crocheting with your feet.
Yeah, crochet is huge for me right now. I'm definitely a crocheter, and, let me just point out because I've had to point this out multiple times, crocheting is different than knitting, so if you ever see somebody working with yarn, don't automatically assume it's knitting, they could be crocheting.
Ooh, that seems
I
like
know, I got all
that's a
feisty.
thing. You got a little that's like heated right there. Like you were like, put the gauntlet
Well,
down.
it's true though,
I
I
love it.
mean,
I love it.
you
Okay.
know? Uh,
And you
yeah.
mentioned your little like you have like little like fun, unique like, like crochet things. What are they? Like the tools that you
Oh, my tools, my crochet rings, I was so proud of those, but they already broke, but that's what
Oh
I get for
shoot.
shopping off Temu, so
Right. Again. Our
yeah,
social media
but they were
are,
cute.
yeah, yeah.
They were little dinosaur rings, and they're rings that you put on certain fingers that can hold the yarn so that you're not, like, straining your hand from holding yarn. You just
Yes.
hold your hand up and the string will feed through the ring, so it helps with
Yes. It
ergonomability, is
was
that a word?
I don't even that was a big word. I don't think I could
It was a
repeat
big
it.
word, I don't think it was but yeah, they were dinosaur rings and they were cool. So yeah, just crocheting and yeah, I'm kind of a little bit of an artist, so I do like to paint and draw and do all that stuff, and that's again, another aspiration of me for me is, working on my art and making sure that I can express myself through my art because that's something I definitely put aside when I got into radio. I stopped doing painting and art and
Drawing.
drawing and stuff like that, so getting back into that was definitely something um, not only is it something that I wanna continue to do, but something I made sure that I,
That's
got
good.
back into and
Yeah.
started sketching again and doing all that stuff, so,
Oh,
I mean,
really?
it's that kinda stuff that you put aside as stuff you just did as a kid, like,
Right.
for at least when it comes to art for me, when I think about it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's just stuff I did as a kid," but when now that I think about it, I'm like, "No, that was definitely me," like, it
Yeah.
brought joy
Yeah.
for me, like, it can
I
be
think
totally
I have
different for
that.
somebody else. Somebody else may love swimming, like, when they were a
Yeah.
kid, they still love swimming,
Yeah.
and they don't do it as much anymore, but when you get back in the pool, you have that
Right.
euphoria again, and,
Yes.
it's part of you, and giving yourself the opportunity to explore that
Mhm.
version of you and keep that, at the top of the list versus pushing it down because there's other priorities, like,
Yeah.
that's what keeps your joy in life. You definitely
Yeah.
have to do the things that keep joy in your life.
You need, like, that creative outlet because that
Yeah.
also can help propel you down the path to, like, what you're passionate about, you know what I'm saying? When you
Mhm.
have those little creative outlets, when you connect with people that are going through the
Oh, yeah.
same similar things that you're doing or, like, finding
Mhm,
those creative outlets, that's
mhm.
exciting.
And I
Um,
think it helps people who are not as creative, like, when people say that, "I don't know how to draw," or "I don't know how to, you know, make music," whatever. I think even just having that moment of play for
yeah.
yourself, like you get into something and you start playing with Play-Doh, like creative moments happen at the craziest times. A lot of people
Sure.
say they have their best moments in the shower,
Yeah.
but when you're doing something that's not it's taking your mind away from all of the daily duties and all the daily habits that you have to worry about. When you're doing something creative and you're playing with dough or you're
Yeah.
painting or you're even if you're
Sketching.
just, like, taking a run and trying to clear your mind, that's when those creative moments really take off and they
Yeah.
really cement themselves, I think,
Yeah.
for yourself. Like, like you have the best ideas in the shower
Yeah.
and they stick with you,
Yeah.
like because your brain is not working overload on
Yes.
the other stuff that, the daily habits and tasks and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's good to be creative,
I would
even if you
agree.
don't know how to draw or if you
Yeah.
don't know how to do all this. Just get out there and be creative.
Yeah, just do something.
Mhm.
So, okay, so what would be something that you're watching right now, like TV wise, or like movies,
Oh my God.
I do like true crime. Is that like a
I love
thing?
true crime.
You love? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I do love true crime, but I also love fictionary crime. Not is it nonfiction? It's nonfiction.
Nonfiction. No, no, nonfiction's the
Is that true?
no fiction. Yeah,
Nonfiction is true
nonfiction's
stuff,
true.
right?
Fiction
Okay,
is
so
yeah.
I love
We
fiction
went
stuff. I hate that. I've always hated that idea.
fantasy and fiction, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
I
like,
never
and
like, when you're in the library and they have the nonfiction section, I never knew where I wanted to go, like, "I wanna read about dragons, which one is that one in?"
right, point me in the right direction.
Right.
Well, no, I just because when we were interviewing our, guest Raven, Harris Kime, and I remember she was talking about her book, and you were like, "Oh my god, I that's, like, totally a
That's so up
genre."
my alley.
Right, and so I
Yeah.
was, like, thinking when we were gonna do this, like, highlighting you and, like, behind the scenes Angela,
Yeah.
like, what would be, like, maybe a book you're reading, a podcast you're listening to, an
Let's
audio
see.
drama, or, like, a TV or,
So much,
um
so much. You're going too fast.
okay, sorry. I know,
Um, book I'm reading right now,
or listening
is
to.
called Listen for the Lie, which is basically a podcast.
Ooh,
It's a book about a podcast, 2 podcasters who are trying to figure out a murder situation, so that's what that book is about. I'm watching an old school detective show called New York Undercover. I don't know if you ever heard
oh,
of it.
I think I have.
It's a
Another
old
show I'm
school
gonna have to
like
catch
a
up on.
90s it's like a 90s, detective show. I think it was on Fox maybe, long time ago. But, yeah, it's like an old school 90s detective show, which is up my alley.
Yeah, and you can binge it now, so you don't have to wait
Yeah, and
every
I'm
week for the
binging
new
it,
episode.
totally. Let's see, book, TV, what else did you say?
Podcast, but that kinda goes with, like, Listen to the Lie, which kinda reminds me of, like,
Um,
Murders Only in the Building, like, that's a show now.
yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
show. I like
yeah,
that show
I
too.
just started that, yeah.
I'm not listening to a podcast per se right now.
No?
I have been listening to an audiobook called, My Rich BFF, which is a
Oh,
pretty good one. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
no.
I forget the girl's name. I'll have to look that up, but, basically, it's just a finance book and how, this girl who, um, worked on Wall Street and kinda grew up in the whole Wall Street, era, she, just kind of tells you how to work with your money and, the best way to invest and do this,
Yeah.
to get you where you need to be and stuff like that. It's pretty good, and I just like her delivery on it 'cause she actually does the audio to the
Oh,
the
she's
narrative
like the
to it
voice.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So her delivery is really, really good too. So I
That's
really
like
enjoy that one.
that's like
Um,
half of it, really. It's like almost half of like any podcast. I mean, you're literally like in someone's ear,
oh yeah.
or like the
Uh-huh.
audio. Yeah. Anyways, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
my rich BFF. I'm listening to
yeah.
a financial book to, or a financial podcast too, and I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy.
okay, so what is your go-to breakfast?
Go to breakfast.
I'm gonna ask you a bunch of random questions.
I don't yeah, that's fine. I don't eat breakfast every single day. If I do, decide to make something, it's usually probably eggs of some sort. I like a variety of eggs, whether it's scrambled, fried, avocadoed,
Avocado.
toastiness. Like whatever it is, I really do like eggs. So yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh. Do you drink coffee? Tea?
you know what? I've never been a coffee drinker up until like this year. I've really
Oh,
gotten into coffee.
really?
Yeah, and I can tell by my teeth. They're getting like stained.
Really?
My
Oh
bright
my
white
god.
smile is getting a little bit dulled.
You do have the best smile.
Thank
That's
you, I
yeah.
appreciate
You do
it.
have, like, a glow and, like, an essence. That's why I think, like, you're perfect for, like, someone's wedding day. You know what I'm saying? Because 'Cause you're, like, laid back and you're fun and, like, I could just you just kinda you like you said, you're flexible, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So you need
yeah,
all those qualities,
you do.
and, like, when
Mhm.
you're a bride or a groom, like, you are so stressed out. By the time you
Uh-huh.
get to, like you just wanna relax, hang out,
Oh,
have
yeah.
a good time, and you want someone to, like, make those decisions for you,
Yeah,
and,
and it's
like,
definitely like
create
that. You got it. You got it right on nail on the head right there 'cause, that's how it is. These brides are I mean, I work with these brides month or weeks up to, like, months at a time prior to their weddings, and the stress I can feel off of them is
Oh my
crazy.
god.
But
Yeah.
as of day of, I want them to be as comfortable with how everything's gonna be executed, and, I make sure that they have all the checks and balance. They have all of my, my playlists and all of my lists that I let them know, like, "This is where I'll announce this. This is how I'm gonna say your last name. Here's the
Yeah.
phonetic spelling of this name," so, like,
That's
I try my best to make them feel as comfortable as possible with my skill level, and like I said, I've only been doing this for a year, so I'm not me personally, not completely 100% confident in my own skill, but I make them feel like I
I bet you are. I bet you are. That
am.
all transfers over to voiceover, all of
Yeah,
that.
it's
Working
wild.
all of it, like,
It
literally
is.
working with the client, making sure they're
Mhm.
happy, making sure they're comfortable, letting them think or know that you're confident in what you have to
Yeah.
offer,
Mhm, yep,
like,
absolutely.
producing what you've said that you're gonna produce,
Yeah.
like, it's even,
The
like,
only
a
thing I don't
deeper
have to
dive
deal with
into
is the financing stuff. That's what my
Yeah,
bosses do, so I'm
yeah,
happy with that, but
yeah,
yeah, you're right. Everything
yeah,
pretty much translates as if they were a voiceover client, basically,
yeah,
and now it's voiceover plus a little bit of DJing with it
yeah.
and fun with
Y
it.
that's, like, interesting, I love that,
Yeah.
so, okay, so if you what would be, like, your dream vacation?
Ooh, dream
'Cause I know
vacation.
you like to go on vacations, you've been to, like, some cool places in the
I
last
love
couple of years.
vacationing.
I know.
I know.
Where did you
It's
go
my
with your
favorite.
girlfriends? Like, I think what was it, like, Dominican Republic, or where did you guys go? You guys went to some, like, Caribbean island a couple of years back.
I've been to a couple of
Have you?
it's,
Okay.
I think the last girls' trip like that, we were in Mexico, I believe.
Oh, okay. But
There's
where
some
would
probably somewhere in Mexico, but I've been to, like, Turks and Caicos, I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Puerto Rico. Oh, it was Puerto Rico, that's where I went.
Oh, it was Puerto Rico,
It's
that's right, that's
Puerto
right.
Rico, that's the one. But I definitely I wanna get over to Europe somewhere.
Oh,
But I
really?
think when people say your dream one, I usually the first place that pops up is Iceland. I definitely wanna go.
Iceland?
Yeah, I know, I wanna see the Northern Lights, though. That's, like, my
Oh my god. Well, the Northern Lights have been here, like, recently, but
I know, but I wanna get, like, one of those yurts, like, those little round there's, like,
Yard.
glass. It's social media. I know it's social media generated,
Oh
but I
my god,
wanna
that's
do that.
hilarious. I want a yurt. That's my
I
goal.
want a yurt in Iceland so I can see the Northern Lights. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Random.
That is so random. Okay, so, like, what would be seeing that you, like, are working with brides and grooms, like, if you could give them, like, a piece of advice, or if you could give yourself a piece of advice, looking back and reflecting on Angela, we've talked about this 2.0, right? Like, I've
Uh-huh.
reflected on Jocelyn 2.0 coming back from, like, Jocelyn 4.0, like,
Yeah.
if you could give a piece of advice to yourself or a bride, like, have you ever looked at, like, a bride and you just wanna, like, scream at them, like, "This is not the end of everything," or, "This is
Um,
not the end all be all."
thankfully, I haven't had too rough of bridezillas yet, but I've had some some interesting ones. Um, but if I can give advice, at least to myself about, just moving forward, I think is just be more confident, in
Yeah.
my skill set. Like I think a lot of times when you think you don't have enough experience, that really dulls your confidence
Yeah.
in so many ways that you don't even think about, So like I think having more confidence just in yourself in general, not even
Mhm.
just your skill sets, but just yourself. Like,
Mhm.
that, like for myself, like I know I'm a really good worker. I know I'm a very detail oriented worker.
Mhm.
Those two go hand in hand when it comes to this voiceover stuff and the wedding stuff. Like
Yeah.
just being responsive and being detailed.
Yeah.
Those are like the biggest things, honestly. The skill portion, I can work on that. And, it's forgiving on top of that because,
Yeah.
like if I do say somebody's name wrong, it's not my fault because sometimes you have extra letters that don't even belong in the name. So,
Right.
not my fault that I had to say an extra J in there. Um, but,
Oh, yeah.
or, like the DJ stuff, if I'm doing live DJ and I mess up, it's live. What am I gonna
Yeah.
do? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not perfect, so like giving myself a little grace, but also no, giving myself the credit I deserve as far as like I am a good, worker and I
Yeah.
am good, attentive to people's needs and stuff like that. So I think I over I miss I dismissed my good portion because I was too focused on the things I was missing.
Mhm.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so
a
I
lot of
think
people struggle with that. I think that's, like, super identifiable,
yeah,
or, like, people can identify with that for sure.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I
a lot
mean,
of
I
people
think we
do
all
it, and
you gotta
I
flip
I
that
think
script, you gotta, like,
absolutely.
stop focusing on the negative things and start focusing on the positive things, then once you start seeing more you, like, flip that script and you start seeing more of the positive versus, like,
Yeah,
focusing on the negative, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so, favorite movie of all time?
Oh, that is so hard.
I
I feel like
know.
I'm on a date.
What's your sign?
Aries, I can answer that. Favorite movie of all time? Gosh, that's so hard.
I know. Or what's
Um,
one that like you recently watched that you just were kind of like, well, damn, that was good. I know it's hard.
oof, I
Like I
honestly have
watched. You haven't
mm,
watched any movies
I
lately?
can't say that I remember any good ones.
I know
They
my
just have not
brain
made an
doesn't.
impression on me because 'cause I'm not like I said, I've been binge watching
Oh,
New Year
sure.
Undercover for one, and then if I am watching a movie, it's probably something that I've already seen
Or
multiple
like
times.
or a kid
What was
show with your nephew.
Yeah, my nephew watches a lot of kid shows, but, like, yeah, so Lorax, we're watching Lorax right now.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great one, but, like, a lot of times if I do put on a movie, it's probably something I've already seen before just because I want it in the background and I'm not really trying to
Yeah,
watch it, I need something in the background.
you need white
Um,
noise. Yeah.
yeah. I really wanna go see Beetlejuice, so I have high hopes for that, we'll just say that.
I
Yeah.
don't know about that. Like,
Oh,
it's like
did
that's
you
one
see
of
it?
those no, but
Oh, I was gonna
that's
say.
one of those movies that, like, do you really need to recreate it? Like, come on. Like, do we really need to
Yeah.
do that, you know? And there's only been one movie series that, like, has had, like, expanded their movies, like, the
Uh-huh.
Ghostbuster, like,
Mhm.
like, the more recent ones I watched with the kids. I was like,
Sure.
"Oh, I don't have high hopes." And then I was, like,
Yeah.
surprised. I was, like,
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised.
I
Uh
agree with you about Ghostbusters. I think they're
yeah.
doing a really good job with those reboots, but I have high hopes for Tim Burton. He's my guy. Like, I mean, he's a creative genius.
It's a creative that's too funny. I think, like, okay, so you don't have a favorite movie, and that's fine, because like,
Not off the top
none
of my
of
head. I'd have
do you
to
have,
think
like
about that.
do you have any so I have, like, a Gabby question, like, is there anything, like, any shows that you watched growing up that, like, maybe might have influenced you in, you know, into, like, voiceover? Like, did you ever have like, looking back and reflecting? Because like, for me, I'm thinking, like, you Scooby-Doo and, like, all those
Mm,
different shows,
yeah,
I
super
mean
cool.
yeah.
I honestly, to be honest with you, I don't think the idea of voiceover ever really popped in my head ever, to be honest.
No.
When I was a small child, and like I mentioned earlier, I loved art. I used to draw characters, so I always thought that maybe one day I would want to be
Yeah.
a
Pixar character.
Pixar character artist or something like that. So that was always in the back of my head. I don't think voiceover really popped up until after radio, and then there is one monologue that really has stuck with me, and I think that's when I was kind of like, "I would love to do that." It's off of Astro Boy,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, the movie.
and I believe it's, Uma Thurman who does the first opening monologue, and she's talking about Astro City and, like, how it got to be Astro City and stuff like that, but her delivery on that monologue was
Yeah.
amazing, and just listening to her, it's calming, it's peaceful, it's informative, she inflects in all the right places, and it's just it's a beautiful it's so silly to say that, but it is a beautiful monologue in my ears, I love it, when I hear it, I'm like, that's voiceover work at its best for me. Like, I
Yeah.
love the way she delivers that, and I know that there's other voiceover,
Yeah.
points where you can like, "Yeah, that's it. That's the best voiceover you could ever find." But
Right,
no,
right.
I think that for me, when I heard that, I was like, "That's cool. I wanna do something like that."
Right.
Yeah, from
I
Astro Boy.
I forgot that, that makes sense, so when you say, like, that you used to draw and you love you said
Mhm.
that you wanted to be a cartoon, like, on a
Yeah, or
Pixar,
yeah.
like, a big movie on the screen, you wanted to, like, and I still think that that's a dream that is definitely attainable,
Oh,
it
yeah,
just is,
totally.
like, it's
Yeah.
just
I gotta
it's
find the right people, though. I gotta find the right, avenues to get into those places because becoming a Pixar voice is
yeah.
it's not easy.
No, voiceover itself is not easy. It's not
Yeah,
exactly definitely a different, like, beast
right.
nowadays than it was before, so
Sure.
okay, so any final thoughts, like any funny final thoughts or stories that you want to share um or
Um,
messages? Like I think it's interesting that like I think it's important for people to know that like everybody has a journey. Everybody's journey is different, even though we're all kind of heading in the same direction, and there's everything that you shared so far, like there are points that I'm like, oh, I totally identify with that. Identify with that. Oh, I had a similar experience. And I think that's like the fun part of the podcasting thing. This is like a creative outlet for us,
yeah,
and also it's like accountability and I think it's a creative outlet, it's accountability and it's
uh-huh.
also being and staying connected with people that are like going through what
Right.
we're
Yeah,
all like headed in the right direction for or in the direction for our
yeah.
passion.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
So like
Any
I
final thoughts on that in general?
yeah,
I feel like I say it quite often, but I mean, it's just, you know, keeping that spark, like if you know that it makes you feel good to do auditions and catch those gigs,
yeah,
keep on moving with it, even if it is hard, just keep on going and like we said, persistence, persistence, persistence. I'll be the
yeah.
first one to say I'm not very persistent with a lot of my life. But in general, like, I'll say I'm a steady person and like I
I was
continue
gonna
to do things,
say
but it's not like I could be better. We'll just say that. I can be better.
everybody can be better though. I mean, come on. I think you're
Yeah.
being too hard on yourself because
I
I
know,
see
but like a lot of people will find that roadblock and they just were like, "Okay, I guess this wasn't for me." But if it
that's
brings you
true.
joy, it is for you.
Yeah,
So, even if you did hit a roadblock or you hit something that just did not make you
yeah,
feel as joyful, just remember that there is joy in what you wanna do, and you gotta continue to do it until you
yeah.
find, your sweet spot.
And be flexible
Yeah.
and keep going and keep
Mhm.
moving through. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that
Yeah.
that is like a big note. Okay, so we always end on like a fun question. These are hilarious. I can't wait to hear your answer. Okay, one or two. One or two.
2.
Two. Okay. What would you put in a time capsule today to remind you of your life, to remind you of like your life, like, 10
In the
years?
future.
Yeah. So like what
Just
like
one thing?
yeah, I mean, are you gonna pick
One
like
thing?
three if you want? Because it's just us.
Um To remind me of what
Would be
okay, that's tough.
I know, right? I was thinking like the other one was what animal would you transform into? I already told you I'd be a bird
A bird, yeah.
or a dog. That was
Probably a bird
previous.
myself as well. I don't know, I mean, if I could pick a couple of things, I'd probably
Yeah.
pick, like, just simple stuff like, like my little voiceover actor's pencil, you know?
Oh,
Like, when I use this when I have clients, I actually make sure I pick out my little pencil because, you have to write your edits
yeah.
and stuff on things, so,
Yeah.
a lot of people have their own mechanical pencils, but this is my special pencil, so
Aw.
that's the one I usually go for when I work with clients, and, of course, photos, videos, of all
Yeah.
my good times and stuff
Your
like that.
crochet
My
dinosaur.
maybe a
Well,
little
they're
crochet
broken.
dinosaur ring, yeah.
We'll have to
But
get
they're
you a
better
new one.
than you. Yeah. Well, it was like $1 on Temu for like 5, so I have plenty left, but
Oh, or
so
maybe like a what is it that they put around their leg? The brides? Like what is
oh,
that? Yeah.
a garter. I know. Yeah, I've learned so much from the wedding, like, I didn't know that there was a difference between matron of honor and maid of honor.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. So, like, I learned so much, but yeah, garter is what that's called.
You could put a garter in there, or you could put
Yeah.
something from like the wedding. No, I'm not saying somebody's.
I'll
I'd
just
say
put my
like
DJ headphones in there. I don't want nobody's garter.
or you could get your own. I mean, I don't know. You don't have to have somebody's.
I need a
That's a
man to give me a garter first.
that's a good man.
Yeah.
Did you say that your sign was Aries?
Yeah, I'm an Aries.
So you're all fire.
That's what they say. I don't I mean, it's funny because like I follow a lot of that stuff too, but um I think there's different types of zodiacs, I think. So
Yeah.
like if you're an Aries, I think there's different types of Aries, and I
Totally.
think
Totally.
a lot of people think, Aries are fiery. And yeah, I could be fiery, but for the most part, I'm more on the chill side of the Aries versus
Yes.
the fiery side of the Aries.
You're the slow burn chill.
Yeah, I'm the slow burn. Oh yeah, but when I start burning, you'll get
You get
on
hot.
touch.
That's too funny. I was gonna say like the one thing I'd put in is like just because it's like I got a Stanley
That's
and
your thing.
the funny thing is I got this for the resort job because like I wanted to go in my cup holder and I need water because I'm like out in the hot heat,
Oh
right?
yeah.
On the beach, like 5 hours, with my
Oof.
toes in the sand, like seating people. And so like and my kids were like, really, mom? Really? This is
Yeah,
like so
really.
6 months ago. Like this is so 6 months ago. Like
Get
why?
out of here.
Yeah, that's what they said to me. I was like, "Well, I'm hip with the times now then." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh my God, you're like, that's like that
Like,
ship
mom,
is
don't say that again. No, please
that
don't.
the
Hip with the times.
hip with the
Are you
times." And
70?
yes, totally. And
You're
I
so
would probably put my microphone or like well, I would probably still need my microphone, hopefully.
microphone's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we would hopefully still be using it, right? So
Yeah. Well, I
hopefully.
would assume that, you have a couple of microphones in
I do
your
have a couple
your
microphones.
your arsenal.
I
So
think
you
you do
probably have one
too.
available. I do.
How many
Probably have
microphones
one
do you have?
available. 2. I don't have
Yeah,
that many. You
right
have
now.
probably like 12,
I
but
stop.
I have 2.
I have like 3, 4, maybe. I don't know.
It keeps counting 5,
Like
6.
5. I think my teenager's taken a couple. He's confiscated a couple, but
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. Thank you for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
journey and being in the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No worries.
appreciate that. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, we should do the thing, right? Like what's your website?
Yeah, Angela Cortez, .com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they can email you and they can
they can
follow you
email
and
me.
all the social and
Mhm.
all that stuff is there. Yeah.
Yeah, just Angela Cortez. I'm sure you'll find me somewhere.
You do pop up, especially
I know,
from your
and that's the
radio gig.
unfortunate part. My radio stuff will pop up faster than my voiceover stuff, but I mean, you'll figure it out.
You're so good with doing social media stuff too. When you
No, I'm
do the social
not.
yes, you are. What are you
Barf.
talking about?
Hate social media.
I know you got burnt out on it because you're like it
I know.
was part of the radio stuff. But like when
Yeah.
you do your social media stuff, it's like you know what you're doing, because like
Yeah.
I'm super awkward when it comes to
If
that
I'm
kind
gonna
of stuff.
post something, I'm gonna post something that's worth posting. I'm not
Yes.
like, and that's probably why I suck at social media because I won't post something for like months because I
Yeah.
don't have anything worthwhile to post. Like, and
I think we
even
all
though I
feel that.
probably do, I just feel like, no, it's just not.
Yeah.
This is not worldwide worthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
This is
that.
my personal, stuff.
Yeah.
So
I know.
it's,
I have multiple moments during multiple days at multiple times thinking like I'd like to do this for social media or I'd like to share this and I'm like, not
yeah,
worth it.
yeah,
Let's keep it to
exactly.